We will review import duties and levies on vehicles and equipment meant for industrial and agricultural purposes. Ladies and gentlemen, we will rationalize port fees and charges and implement emergency measures to stabilize the cedi and the macroeconomic environment. Ladies and gentlemen, we will use the price stabilization and recovery levy to cushion consumers of petroleum products. We will investigate the MPP's opaque gold for oil deal. We will review the gold purchase program of the Bank of Ghana and will restore the licenses of wrongfully collapsed banks and financial institutions. We will increase indigenous participation in the banking and financial sector. And we will free the statutory funds, the GET Fund, NHIL, Road Fund, to be able to achieve their mandated objectives. Alleviating the current economic hardships. And one of our first programs is the no fee stress policy. There are many students who are unable to take up their places in tertiary educational institutions because they cannot afford to pay their academic user fees, the academic fees. And so we'll take that stress off them. For the first year, they will not be required to pay fees. And I assure the universities it will not affect their internal generated funds. We're going to give the money to the student's loan. The student loan will pay it to the universities as a grant. It will be paid as a grant, not as a loan. And aside from that, we're going to increase the subvention that goes to our public universities so that we can improve quality and learning in those universities. We will provide free tertiary education for all persons with disability. And we will provide free sanitary pads for girls in school. If you remember, Nana Jane started that policy with a World Bank facility, and they called that loan the PAD loan. Yes, we are proud of the PAD loan. It will allow our young girls who are going through their periods to be neat and hygienic and not to miss school, be able to go to school all year round. We will uncap the National Health Insurance Levy. Currently, there's a cap on the levy, and so a certain portion of the levy goes into the consolidated fund. And so the Health Insurance Authority is not able to pay the health facilities, reimburse them for the services that they provide. We will uncap the health insurance so that all the National Health Insurance Levy will go into the National Health Insurance Fund so that they can pay the hospitals for looking after our people. And of course, this is associated with it. We'll reprioritize the health sector by ensuring timely releases of payment to service providers. We established the Ghana Medical Care Trust, into brackets, somebody calls it Mahama Cares, to support persons with chronic diseases such as kidney failure, cancer, sickle cell, diabetes, hypertension, and other health-related diseases. We'll also introduce the community pharmacy concept, and that will encourage people to go to your local pharmacy and go have your blood pressure taken and your sugar checked, so that if you have diabetes or high blood pressure, we're able to know early so that you can get treatment and be able to survive. We'll implement free primary health care services. So if you go to a CHIPS compound or a health center, whether you have a national health insurance card or not, you will be treated for free. And so from the health center level down, polyclinic, health center, CHIPS compound. If you go, you'll be treated for free. From the district referral hospital upwards, you use your Ghana card, your National Health Insurance card, and you receive treatment. Cocoa production, which has been one of the mainstay of our economy, has plummeted. And for the first time in the history of our country, the Cocoa Board annual syndication, which was sought after by all international banks, today it has no takers. Nobody is willing to lend Cocoa Board any money. Production volumes are down, and Cocoa Board is seeking to delay delivery of almost 350,000 tons of cocoa to next year. It means that your government, NDC, is the one going to have to find the 350,000 to fill that hole, to pay the debt. Cocoa Board has also defaulted on almost 13 billion Ghana cedis in cocoa bonds. Oil and gas production has declined by 32%, and debt to independent power producers has increased astronomically. Today, the majority of state-owned enterprises are posting massive losses. The COVID pandemic, rather than being an adversity, turned out to be a blessing, with a windfall for this government of almost 25 billion Ghana cedis of inflows, most of which were doled out to companies owned by family and friends. The majority of our citizens are convinced that our country, Ghana, is going in the wrong direction. Faith in our democracy is at its lowest, and many of our youth do not believe that constitutional governance is working for them. Faith in our democratic institutions and the political leadership is at its lowest ebb, and corruption is at its highest, and Ghanaians have become numb to the scandals that are exposed almost every week. And when you have a president who says he does not understand the hullabaloo that is being made about the sale of snitch hotels to a minister in his own government, then clearly he is on a completely different wavelength from the rest of us in this country. My brothers and sisters, this is a president who just doesn't get it. Many domestic and foreign investors have adopted a wait-and-see attitude. Many of them I have met have told me that they are waiting for a signal from the Ghanaian people that the political and business environment is going to change for the better, that we are going to effect a change of course so that we can provide a reasonable environment for them to put in their investments. Ladies and gentlemen, the Holy Book in Matthew 25:14-30 tells one of the parables of Jesus Christ, and this is the parable of the talents. This parable teaches us to invest whatever is put in our care wisely for the benefit of our master. The master in this case is the people of Ghana. This administration is just like the last of the servants who buried his talents that was given to him by his master, and when his master came, he returned the 1 talent to him. But in this case of Akufo-Addo and Bawumia and their cabal, they did not bury the 1 talent and give us back our 1 talent when we returned. They gambled with the talents that we gave them, and they landed the people of Ghana in a huge debt. We cannot continue on this path. Lessons must be learned from the experience of these last almost 8 years. A vote for the MPP will be an expression of satisfaction with the impunity of the last 8 years. A vote for the MPP is a vote for a 3rd term for Nana Akufo-Addo. A vote for the MPP in this election is a vote to escape accountability. It is a vote to allow officials who have stolen and raped this country's resources to escape accountability and go laughing all the way to their bank accounts. Ladies and gentlemen, Their flag bearer and his running mate, who have been prominent actors in this horror movie Ghanaians have watched these last almost 8 years. You know horror movies, don't you? Their flag bearer and his running mate, who have been prominent actors in the horror movies Ghanaians have watched these almost last 8 years. These people cannot be the ones to exact accountability from the government of which they have been an integral part. We are at a critical juncture in our democratic history. Choices we make in elections come with consequences. We cannot afford to fail this time. A restive youthful population does not have the luxury of trial and error. They do not have the luxury of trying a driver's mate who has learnt his driving skills from the same driver who crashed the Ghanaian vehicle of state. Our nation needs a reset. Our democracy needs a reset. Our economy needs a reset. Our governance needs a reset. And our attitudes need a reset. We need a responsive government that will respect the rights and freedoms of our citizens, including journalists, and address the ongoing decay of state institutions and fight corruption by deploying the Operation Recover All the Loot principle. Operation Recover All the Loot strategy, and that is ORAL. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are presenting to you a manifesto that will help take back your future, take the future of Ghana back into the hands of the Ghanaian people.
You're welcome back. That's John Dramani Mahama talking about resetting the economy. And Bawumia's response has been an upgrade and not a reset. My guest this morning, Dr. Theo Acheampong, economist and political risk analyst. Doc, thank you for joining us, as always. Thank you very much. Please unmute your mic. Okay.
Good morning. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you now. Great.
Okay.
You're joining us from Aberdeen?
Yes. I was in Ghana earlier in the week, but I'm back.
Yes, because I saw you. All right. Also joining us is Sami Jemfi, National Communications Officer of the National Democratic Congress. Good morning. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Samson. We
have Dennis Miracles Abuaji, Director of Communications for the Bawumia 2024 campaign. He should join us shortly. And look, let me start on this note, and a very brief one from you, Dr. Theo Acheampong. We couch our flyer, NDC manifesto, big push to reset the economy. Bawumia faces media, bold answers to upgrade the economy. Resets, upgrade. What do you think should happen?
Something should happen, Samson. It's semantics. I won't play too much with the politics of it, and I think both the two gentlemen in the studio would do their thing. But the fundamental thing for me is that you need a certain change in direction. That this economy, however well it's been growing over the last 8 or so years, and particularly with the challenges of the last 3 years, has not done enough to actually address some of the big ticket micro level issues, right? So for example, the cost of living crisis, the unemployment, the inequality, the poverty, and all the other things that we've seen manifest in the last 2 years. And that clearly cannot continue. And I like to borrow something from what the tape you just played a few moments ago from John Mahama, that says that you've got a youthful population that doesn't sort of have the luxury of trial and error. Things fundamentally have to change. And if you actually look at the statistics on like poverty over the last, let's go back to 1993, right? So from 93 to 2012 thereabouts, we were able to bring down poverty rates from 47% in 1991 actually down to 12% in 2012. So this is without oil production, without going to the capital markets to borrow and all of those things, yeah? But actually since 2012, if you look at the data, so now you have 3 oil fields, you've got, inflows, more foreign direct investment inflows coming in. And the data actually shows, right, that since 2012 till date, and in all the successive years, the poverty rate is actually increased from 12% now to about 27% of the population. In other words, what you have now is 3 in 10 of the Ghanaian population is actually much poor. And the forecast by the World Bank is that next year is even going to go up to about 30-something%, right? And these poverty levels are at their highest in over a decade. And that's the thing that needs to change. So whether we're talking about growth, whether we're talking about inflation and all of the other issues, it fundamentally has to cascade down into creating the jobs that people need to be able to survive. And so you look at the manifesto titles from both parties, and you can see very clearly that there's an attempt in the titles to capture this issue of jobs and the fact that you've got a youthful population that are restive and feels that things are not working for them.
The NPP says selfless leadership, bold solutions for jobs and business. Then the NDC says resetting Ghana, jobs, accountability, prosperity. So I just needed you on a very brief take there. We will come to you for your substantive, submission on the issues that we are dealing with. Resetting, upgrading, and Dr. Echampon says change in direction. It's clear that is what is required. So where does change in direction sit? Sit in reset or upgrade? I'd like to begin, and Dennis Miracle Sabwaje is right here. Thanks for joining us. Right. And I'd like to begin with a text message from one of our viewers, an ardent follower of Newsfile. Iraba, she says, Ghana needs a serious upgrade for high efficiency, but the citizens need a reset. Reset from wasting taxpayers' money. Reset from stealing from taxpayers. Reset from not going to work but collecting salaries every month. Reset from being on government payroll but working for other companies. Look, these are reality that Iraba is emphasizing. Collecting salaries every month, but working for some other company, or being on the payroll of government, but working for some other company. Reset from buying votes. Reset from attending church on Sundays, but go and sit close to heap refuse dumps to sell our wares. Yeah, going to church and going to the mosque. I'm just coming out of a case that I've just finished, a trial in. and you are looking at somebody testifying, and you intentionally, because you're cross-examining, you intentionally hide some truth, factual information, which they know, and then you ask them the question, they've sworn on the Bible and the Quran, and yet they lie through their teeth. And they're like, what's wrong with our psyche? Okay, a rabbi says, we need a change from this, a reset from this. Now she continues. Reset from running away from paying taxes. Reset from giving waivers to MPs to import cars into the country, etc. Once we upgrade and citizens have an attitude reset, then we can see a change. For us to believe the flag bearers, they should publish their asset declarations. And that's on the note that I invite all of you to send us your messages on the two contesting words or expressions that are being used. For our first segment, we're discussing resets. And in our second segment, we'll find out if Bawumia had the answers that suggest he's ready to give an upgrade. So, Sami Jamfi, there are issues on the raised in your manifesto that we have become familiar with, but now we are seeing in the document and we are seeing the blueprint how exactly you intend to pursue them. And we have counted at least 680 promises. That is you've upped that from your 617 promises in 2020. 2026, you had 606 promises, and 2012, you won elections. You had 569. These things require a lot of money to do. 24-hour, 311. You are training 1 million coders. You are embarking on a $10 billion accelerated infrastructure plan. You reform the VAT regime. You want to re-engage with the IMF. You want to set up a public debt management office. There's going to be a free level 100 education. I think there's a better way to capture the no fees for the first years. You are going to scrap ex gratia. There will be 30% women in political appointments. There can be more than that. Why not? You will establish what is being called now the Mahama Care Trust Fund, the Ghana Medical Care Trust Fund, then a number of issues. You are also going to remove e-levy, COVID levy, betting tax, emission levy, and all. When we put the taxes you are going to scrap, in total, there is a projected revenue loss of 8 billion. And I put that against the NPP. The two taxes they intend to cut will take them to about 13 billion Ghana cedis. This is a broke country. How are you going to implement all of these?
Thank you very much, Samson, and a very good morning to our cherished viewers. You see, there is no gainsaying the fact that Ghana now is in a total mess. Our nation has been totally run down by the ruling New Patriotic Party and has been plunged into bankruptcy. And that is why, for the first time in the last 50 years, Ghana has defaulted on its debt obligations. This is why we have been downgraded from B- in 2016 under President Mahama, a stable economy that could service its debts, an economy that investors had confidence in. We've been downgraded from B- to junk economic status. Debt to GDP, which stood at 56% at the time Mahama was leaving office, rose to 104% in 2022. And as I speak to you, our debt is still unsustainable. Unemployment has almost doubled from 8.4%, according to the Ghana Statistical Service, to about 15% as we speak. Our CD This year alone has depreciated by more than 20%. In 2022, it depreciated by 54%. And today you need more than 16 Ghana cedis to get $1. And so we are in a deep mess. And President Mahama, in the tapes you played, recounted some of these things. State institutions that were making profit under the NDC, which today have been totally run down and are on the verge of collapse. The only thing thriving now is corruption, cronyism, nepotism. And so there is a loud cry all across the country for change. And this is not the business as usual kind of change, the ordinary kind of change, the ordinary change we've seen in the history of this country. Like the MPP parliamentarian Kennedy Japan said, change is now calling Ghana. So what we need is a fundamental change in the direction of this country, a fundamental change in the management of this country. And that is what we call a reset. So you don't upgrade something. It's a no-brainer. You don't upgrade a broken system. You don't upgrade a system that doesn't work, a system that is fraught with corruption. What you do is that you reset it, you fundamentally change it, and you begin the process of rebuilding it. I give you a typical example. Currently, we are a bankrupt nation. We can't service our debt. Inflation is so high. Food inflation in Ghana is one of the highest in Africa. Like Tio Echampong said, poverty is on the rise. Unemployment is at an all-time high, okay? The highest in living memory. How do you upgrade such a system? Are you going to upgrade the hardships? Are you going to upgrade the unemployment? Are you going to upgrade the bankrupt economy that can pay its debt? No. That is certainly not the way to go. The way to go is to reset that economy, to change the fundamentals of the economy and the structure of the economy. Move it from the traditional 8-hour work economy to a 24-hour economy that prioritizes production, productivity for the creation of sustainable jobs. I give you another example in the area of governance. Look at the issue of scholarships and the way it has been abused. This state institution has its own scholarship scheme. This state institution has another scholarship scheme. And the scholarship is always awarded to the privileged. Those whose fathers are higher ups, big men in the government, to go and study courses that have no bearing on the development agenda of Ghana. People are giving scholarship, like the child of Freddie Blay, to go to the Middle Temple to study law. You understand? What that system needs is not an upgrade, it needs a reset. And that is why we are talking about ushering in a new paradigm of government scholarships by passing a new law which will consolidate, regulate, streamline all the existing scholarship schemes and prohibit, ban political appointees and their direct family relatives from enjoying government scholarships. That is the meaning of the research we are talking about. Another example, look at the looting of state lands and assets we are seeing. That system doesn't need an upgrade. By upgrading it, it means you are going to encourage that lootocracy. What it needs is a reset. And that is why John Mahama has promised that we are introducing a first of its kind state asset registry, which will keep track of our state assets. And we are introducing legislation to ban political appointees from purchasing that. So this is a new paradigm shift relative to the management of our nation, the management of our economy and so on. Now you see, the biggest problem confronting our nation today is the high cost of living and the high cost of doing business. Something you know it. We live it every day. It's our daily experience. People are suffering. Never in the history of this country has our people, been subjected to the kind of pain and penury they are going through. And so President Mahama is saying that to start with, we must fix that broken system. And we must ameliorate the plight of suffering Ghanaians. How? By reducing the tax burden on the people and on businesses. And that is why he has promised emphatically that when elected, he will scrap the COVID levy, which simply doesn't make sense. Ghana is the only country charging its people COVID levy, when we should have actually been giving our citizens social incentives to cushion them against the debilitating impact of the pandemic, like Rwanda did and like other advanced countries did. We have turned the disease into a tax. After we got so much, over 25 billion from the pandemic, and misused it, we've been charging COVID levy. How many years after COVID subsided? More than 2 years. President Mahama says he will abolish it. President Mahama has promised again to abolish the obnoxious and regressive e-levy, which doesn't make sense. We will abolish that to provide some relief to suffering Ghanaians. We will also abolish the emissions levy, which also doesn't make sense because this government is already charging us sanitation and pollution levy. How do you charge your people sanitation and pollution levy and still charge them emissions levy? Is emissions not part of pollution? So double taxation. And bear in mind that these taxes, these, in some cases, senseless taxes, crippling taxes, draconian taxes, have been introduced by people who promised to move us from taxation to production. People who said that the tax burden in 2016 was so high that it was hurting the economy, that they were coming to reduce the tax burden on Ghanaians. So President Mahama says, yes, they are flattered to deceive on their promises, and we can never trust them to scrap these taxes because they themselves introduced these taxes. And so we will not only abolish the emissions levy in addition to the COVID levy and the e-levy, we will also abolish the 10% bet winnings levy. If you want to tax betting, tax the companies like the UK does, like Germany does. Tax the companies to pay higher corporate taxes on their profits, not the innocent Ghanaian. So aside these things, we are also providing a 2-year tax holiday for new, small, and micro businesses. We want to give them a moratorium of 2 years to establish their businesses before they begin to pay corporate taxes and personal income taxes. This was a promise in our 2020 manifesto, which we have repeated in the 2024 manifesto. And we are reviewing...
I know why you had to state that it was 2020 manifesto.
Yeah. The consistency is important. Yeah. And we are also reviewing the VAT regime to abolish the 3% VAT rate, introduce a standard VAT regime, and also exempt micro and small businesses from paying VAT. We are also going to rationalize port fees and charges to reduce fees and charges at the ports. So these tax measures are aimed at reducing the unbearable cost of doing business and the cost of living in the country. As I speak to you, Samson, Nivea has left Ghana. Big Pen has left Ghana. Glovo has left Ghana. Jumia Food has left Ghana. Dark and Lovely has left Ghana. Lipton Tea has left Ghana. Why are all these businesses leaving Ghana? And they are not going to America. They are going to Nigeria. They are going to Cote d'Ivoire. They are going to Togo. Why are they leaving Ghana? Because of the unbearable tax burden by a group of people who rode on the back of lofty, mouth-watering promises into power and have turned out to be the biggest political scam in the history of our nation. And that is why we are doing this. But what even excites me are the social interventions contained in the manifesto, some of which you made reference to, which I need to explain, because it will, in addition to these tax cuts, provide the needed relief Ghanaians are yearning for. And number one, like you said, we are introducing the no-fee stress policy. We're saying that no first-year student in a public tertiary institution, be it university, technical, university, polytechnic, college of education, nursing training institution, will pay academic fees. And if you don't know what academic fees are, just pick the admission letter of any new entrant, the amount of money stated there, which the child must pay before he can become a student. The academic fees usually constitutes 95% of that amount. So averagely, you're talking about 2,300, 2,500, 2,600, depending on the institution. We are taking that burden away from parents. And you see, that gives me joy. Because only yesterday, your good friend, Lawyer Susu, was telling me a story about a young man called Joseph Luther, who completed the West African Senior Secondary School in Accra here. Topped his batch, best student with aggregate 6, Joseph Luther. I'll share his pictures with you. 2023 batch. He had dreams of going to school to study dentistry. Unfortunately, he couldn't go to school because of the high cost of admission fees. We are taking that burden away. In addition to that, continuing students will be able to apply for the student loan plus, which gives you a higher amount than the normal student loan to support your fees. Then they will also have access to on-campus accommodation through the Bed for All program we will be rolling out in collaboration with the private sector. As for persons with disability, we are taking a bold step of scrapping fees for them, all forms of fees for them, from level 100 to level 400. No person with disability will pay school fees under the next NDC Mahama government. And on top of that, there is this Mahama Cares intervention, which I am also excited about because I have family relatives with chronic diseases like cancer. And I know you know people with diabetes. You know people with hypertension and other form of heart diseases. You know people with kidney failure who sometimes are just left to die because they cannot afford the high cost of medication. A nation, Samson, that does not take care of its sick is sick. A nation that does not take care of its sick is sick. All these chronic diseases, which account for the highest percentage of mortalities, deaths we record in this country, are not covered by the health insurance.
Right.
And so we're establishing a special fund called Mahama Cares to support the cost of treatment.
Right. So
in addition to the free primary health care, which will ensure that anybody who goes to a CHIP compound, a clinic, a polyclinic, a health center is treated for free whether or not they have health insurance. Now you ask about funding, and I will just answer that in the next 1-2 minutes. You see, the problem with us as a country is not the inadequacy of funds. It has to do with the misplaced priorities of the Akufo-Addo Bawumia government.
So you say you are going to implement a no academic fee policy for first-year students in all public tertiary institutions, including universities, colleges of education, and nursing training colleges.
Yes.
The question is, your government said we couldn't give these nurses their allowances. The teachers, we couldn't continue with the allowances. The country's purse could not take care of that. What changed?
We are not talking about allowances. And these are not allowances. In fact, what we did with allowances was to replace the allowances, not to cancel, to replace the allowances with student loans, because we had upgraded teacher training institutions into tertiary level colleges of education, and we said for equity, take student loans like your colleagues in other tertiary institutions do, so that we can abolish the quota system which was inhibiting access. Now, what we are talking about has got nothing to do with allowances. We have seen a problem where a lot of children who pass their WASI, get admission, are not able to enter various tertiary institutions because the admission fee is so high. And you see, at the entry level, parents bear a lot of cost in addition to the academic fees. But when your child is going to university, the things you are buying for the child, just so that the child can go, the prospectus, in fact, the food, the things you need to buy, the chop money, and all that, in addition to the admission fee, account for a lot of children dropping out.
What happened to your perspective on free SHS about making it discriminatory rather than wholesale? Because there are people who can afford. There are people who don't need the first entry fees that you are going to pay.
Yeah.
There are those who you pay the entry fee, and after that, they can't continue.
Yeah.
They may drop out.
No, they won't drop out because the student loan plus is there now. And you see, once you gain admission, the heavy lifting is gaining admission to become a student. If you don't pay that money, you don't become a student. Once you enter school and you even owe your second year or third year fees, you're able to negotiate with the authorities. You have 1 year to pay. But for the admission fee, usually they have a short period of time from the time the results come to the time that they must enter school. So that is why we are doing that.
We take it that you have revised your earlier
approach. Let me answer the part about the discrimination. The problem we had with the mode of implementing, which was not only an NDC problem, even Akufo-Addo's cousin Ken Ofori-Atta made the same argument, was that provide a system for those who want to pay. And that system will be provided under this system. That is it. Provide a system, give opportunity to those who say, look, government, thank you, I can pay.
How do you expect that to happen?
Why won't that happen?
It's free.
Something.
So
yeah, it is free.
Why should I say I opt to pay?
It is free, but provide the opportunity. If I can pay for my child, I will pay. You understand? That opportunity is what Ken Ofori-Atta, Stephen Adair, higher ups in the MPP called for.
If we use the CDD's democracy projects, their analysis of the fiscal impact of repealing e-levy, it means the projected revenue we are talking about is going to be over 8 billion. Okay. Then for the COVID tax,
8 billion over what period?
2015, 2025, 2026, and 2027.
Let me tell you something.
Then COVID tax will take us to almost 14 billion.
It's all true.
So you say we are broke,
but look,
and that is the fact.
How are you going to get that money? Our public debt has increased by 641 billion. And all these amounts you are quoting pale into insignificance when it is compared to the total resource envelope that has accrued to this government. They alone, Mills and Mahama in 8 years borrowed $4.7 billion from the Eurobond market. They alone in 6 years borrowed $11 billion. What did they use the money for? The net effect of what they did with the money is the bankruptcy we find ourselves in. So the problem is not the inadequacy.
You talk about bankruptcy.
These are the people.
And you guys force us. Let me force us to say this because you always discount COVID and you always discount Ukraine.
So why is Côte d'Ivoire not bankrupt? Why are they still servicing their debt? Why is Togo servicing its debt? Why is Nigeria servicing its debt? Why is Burkina Faso servicing its debt?
Are you sure?
Are
you sure a Nigerian?
Let me answer you.
Are you sure a Nigerian wants Ghana's? A Nigerian will not prefer Ghana's economy to our economy problem?
Our economy that can service its debt. I'm saying that how did COVID jump all these countries and only came to destroy our country's economy, rendering it bankrupt? Look, these people went for one cabinet retreat in 2021 and spent 4.5 million cedis in one day. 45 billion OCDs.
Okay.
These people, let me answer your question because I want to show you where the money is.
I need you to take a pause.
No. I have to, in fairness, in 1 minute, let me answer.
Okay.
Look, when we were leaving office, we were running the Office of Government Machinery with just about 700 million Ghana cedis. As I speak to you, the allocation alone is over 2 billion cedis. You know that. Look at the monies they have wasted on that useless pits they call a cathedral. $58 million, equivalent to 928 million cedis. That is aside the arrears, the debt we owe the contractor. If you add that, that is close to 2 billion Ghana cedis. And you tell me that we can't find just about 300 million to cushion their careers. They can become lawyers like Samson Ladi Ayinene and so on. So the problem has to do with the corruption. It has to do with the waste and the misplaced priorities. And that is why John Mahama has promised that within 90 days, in fact, he says within 14 days, his cabinet appointments would have been done ready for parliamentary approval. And within 90 days, he would have put in place the leanest and the most efficient government in our history that will eschew profligacy and waste, and that will promote modesty and efficiency in the utilization of the legal resources of state.
Thank you.
We will find the money to do it. Where there is a will, there is always a way.
And I like to pose this ahead of time that my guests, I need you to understand something. It is their manifesto they launched, and it is their manifesto we are talking about. So don't clamor for equal time for those whose manifesto we are discussing. I'm just setting the ground rules for you to know. If it were your manifesto we're discussing, you will get the greatest part of the time.
The weekend after our manifesto, did you place this caveat?
Yes, you should check what happened.
I watched.
Yeah, you watched.
I never heard you.
You should check what happened.
And I'll actually go and check the time.
You should check what happened.
It's okay. I don't need too much time.
So,
I don't need too much time.
Right. So, in any case, you are also promising to abolish e-levy. So, that will be a question for you as well. Where are you going to make up? How are you going to make up for it? What do you say to those who say the NDC's manifesto appears to be more responsive
I haven't
to
heard,
the needs?
I really haven't heard anybody say that apart from the NDC. They have been touting their own, manifesto. Because I'm really yet to hear anybody say that. And it's especially so because really, if you read the manifesto, you realize that they're completely out of touch with the realities of the Ghanaian people.
Completely.
And yes. I mean, you can infer that from even the questions that you legitimately asked. Clearly, this is a group of persons who have sat in a room, put together things that they believe sound like music in the ears of people just for votes. Because if you compare the things they've put in their manifesto against the principles they've been espousing over the years and what they stand for, it's in complete contradiction of what they've been telling the Ghanaians.
You are scrapping e-levy, you are scrapping e-levy. That's no contradiction.
Complete contradiction of what they've been preaching, what they have been preaching over the period. This is a group of persons who were in power. In fact, this is a flag bearer who has been president before. Today, his spokesperson tells us that no Ghanaian child should have admission to school and not be able to go to school. But they were in government. He was president for 4 good years and left 100,000 average of Ghanaian children at home. The biggest challenge of Mahama, His Excellency, and the NDC have is the fact that they would have to account for his presidency within the 4-year period. Forget when he was vice president. Within the 4-year period that we gave him an opportunity. Because everything, in fact, everything you look at in the manifesto, you would have heard him mentioned it either before 2012 or during the 2012 elections. And that is where everybody is concerned. Something, not just me or you, because you ask very legitimate questions. Millions of Ghanaians are looking at him and saying, where is this man coming from? This is somebody who is all of a sudden talking about how no sick person should be allowed or left to die. The person collapsed the National Health Insurance Scheme. This is somebody and his group of persons who promised us. They basically promised to give us a one-time health premium. Then we voted for them. For 8 years of being in office, they did not even think about the policy. In fact, what some of their leadership told us was the fact that that promise they gave was overambitious. The General Secretary of the NDC today, Fifi Kwete, said that the promise based on which we voted for them was overambitious, and so they could not implement. And this is the same person that has come to us and said, I was president. All the things that I'm seeing today are things that have been in existence in this country. But when you made me president, I didn't do them. Make me president again, and I'll do them for you. Look at this manifesto, Samson. The manifesto is either a recycled promise from his earlier manifesto he presented to us in 2012. When you give us a manifesto, we expect 2 things. Tell us how you're going to implement the manifesto, which timelines you're going to look at it, and if it's going to transcend beyond your 4 years, of course we should be able to say it. Secondly, give us confidence that you are credible and that you actually do what you say you will do. I look at the former president's manifesto for 2012, and I have it here. And I go through this manifesto and ask myself, how is this man expecting that the Ghanaian persons will make him president again? And I have a list of about 280 promises here. Is here. I can list all of them to you, and you can see it here. Out of the 280 promises he made in 2012, before we made him president, he fulfilled only 77 of them. Only 77 of them, Samson. A whooping 68% of the promises the former president made to the people of this country, before we made him president in the past, he did not fulfill. And so what is news? If the same person comes to you 8 years later and starts listing, basically shoplifting things across every space and putting it into a document and listing, what is news about it? You look at some of the things they mentioned, and clearly it tells you why they deliberately sat down for 8 years without putting out their manifesto until Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia put the manifesto. Clearly, places where we say we'll do 1, they say we'll do 2. They simply waited. When we say we'll do 2, they say they will do 3. Places we say we'll do black, they will do white. In some of the instances, they simply went into a manifesto and lifted everything and put into their manifesto. And that is why you see a lot of incoherence in the things that they put out. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is very clear. His manifesto is simply consolidating what it is that we have achieved as a country and fixing what is outstanding. And that is what an upgrade does. Something. Anybody that understands technology, understands reset, will tell you that when you are resetting, you have two options. Reset to factory settings, which basically is wiping everything off to zero, or resetting to a particular period, depending on when you backed up. I hope you're following. That is what it is. You are resetting to a particular period, depending on when you backed up. Now, for these guys not to hoodwink us and mislead us, one of the things that is missing, which they need to tell us that we can interrogate correctly, is where are you resetting us to? And clearly when I listen to Sami, all I hear is they are resetting us to factory settings. Because he made a very important point. He says that when you have a broken system, you wipe everything and start afresh. That is not what Ghana needs. The Ghana today that under your tenure slept in darkness for 4 to 5 years now has power. We don't need to reset our energy sector. The energy sector is thriving. The Ghana today that you left 100,000 children every year on the street now are in school. You don't need to reset the education sector because the children are in school. The Ghana that you left, the poor person's children in colleges of education and nursing, that you said if you're going to lose an elections by simply not restoring the allowances that you will lose, they are now in school. They are receiving their allowances. You don't have to reset that Ghana that we are enjoying now. The Ghana today, where we could not even identify our citizens and take care of them properly, today has a properly synchronized national identification system that is synced to almost every touch point you can think of, and we are ready to leap into the future. It doesn't need a reset. It needs a consolidation, and it needs an upgrade. And so when you come and tell the people that I was president before, I denied all of you children from going to senior high school education. But forget the fact that I said I would not implement free senior high school on the whimsical promises of a desperate politician. Forget the fact that I said I will not implement free senior high school. I will not spend 2 billion cedis on free senior high school. Today, I was against free senior high school. I always said that when it comes to free senior high school, some people should pay and others should not pay. All of a sudden, come to university. If you qualify to the university, I will pay for university education for free. And that is the contradiction you sought to put out. You know what is critical about manifesto, Sam said? It is not just you putting things into a document. It is about who is behind it and the credibility of the individual, the sincerity of the individual, the honesty of the individual. God being so good for the people of this country, we've had an opportunity to experience this individual. Of all the candidates who are running for this election, it is only the former president who has been president before. And so we can tell clearly, today we have his scorecard is here, as to whether he's a man who sticks to his words, as to whether he's a man who says what he will do based on manifestos. This is the list of his manifestos from 2012, after which we made him president, and this is how much he failed, completely failed to deliver on these promises to the people of this country. Now, Samson, think about this. You leave me at home without education, secondary school, so I drop out. You are saying that if I hustle to go through it, if I struggle to go through it and I come to the university, all of a sudden, you found money to pay for me. Do you know what is happening? And I'll tell you, I'll give you a quick background to the NDC.
Is that not an upgrade of what you have done?
But they said they want to reset. The upgrade is ours, not yours. And that's what we are talking about.
No, you are just saying that doesn't...
No, it doesn't match for you. We believe in possibilities. I actually think that we are going to get to the point where every single student in any tertiary university will be paid for free. Because there is no greater investment as a country than to invest in education and health for your people. I believe in that. And so we speak of upgrade because we believe that free SHS should be kept and should not be reset. And that what you should do at the tertiary level is to make the student loan trust scheme much more accessible to the people when they need it and they can pay for their education. But let me give you this quick background. It is important that the people begin to see into the psyche and the principles of the NDC, and it will settle all this manifesto conversation. The NDC has this record. In the year 2003, when President Kufuor was going to pass the National Health Insurance Scheme, this is what happened. They did exactly what they are doing to the free senior high school and the 2024 elections. National Health Insurance Scheme doesn't make sense. We are not there yet. We are not going to allow you to introduce any tax to pay for health insurance. They actually boycott the passage of the National Health Insurance Act in Parliament. Then they left office. Then they left Parliament. Now, President Kufuor implements National Health Insurance Scheme. Fast forward, challenges, difficulties, President Kufuor upgrades it at a point, and that's what upgrades means. At the point he upgrades it, it becomes national issues, national health insurance card. Now you can use your card anywhere you are, wherever you find yourselves. Then in the year 2008, we are going for an election. The NDC now realizes that, listen, we lost the 2004 elections abysmally because the people of this country hooked onto the National Health Insurance Scheme and are holding it dear to their hearts. We cannot continue to denigrate this policy. So what we want to do now is let's latch onto it and hold onto it and pretend as if we love the National Health Insurance Scheme. So they put everything aside and they did two things. They started calling President Kufuor and his government all manner of names. They are corrupt, they are thieves, they've stolen all the gold from Bank of Ghana, they've stolen President Kufuor is an immoral man, all manner of things. Then they added one thing. Dear people of Ghana, we do not believe in National Health Insurance Scheme. We spoke against it. We said it wasn't possible. Here we are. Vote for us. These people who introduced National Health Insurance Scheme, they don't even know what they are doing. They brought it, but they can't do it like we can. We are going to give you a one-time health insurance premium. Vote against them and vote for us. So that the health insurance that they brought, they are unable to do it well, and we will make it better for you. And then do you know what happened? The people had no choice. They had experienced health insurance. They've seen how much lives it can change and how much lives it can save. Now they feel, well, we need an upgrade of this NHIA. So the NDC, please.
You have gone over that. You have gone over that. That they promised one-time premium, they couldn't do it.
Let me land. The NDC now says they will give us a one-time premium. Let's vote for them. Then they voted for the NDC. So, and kicked out. No, Samson, let me.
There are a number of things.
Let me land. I'll land.
I can't let you speak without checking the things you're talking about.
Let me land my scenario.
Okay.
Let me land on my scenario. You can ask me the questions. Now, fast forward. They come into office. First tenor. They didn't introduce one-time health premium. The people are clamoring for it. They said, we beg you, give us time. We'll do it in our second.
I said, that's the point you have
made. No,
I
haven't made that point.
You've made it.
I haven't. Let me land. Then the second term comes. Now, 2 months to elections in 2016. They are asked, you promised us national health insurance. Where is it? Then they start saying, it wasn't realistic. It wasn't feasible. The General Secretary spoke. Mutaka spoke. All manner of things about health insurance. But the people had already gotten their hands tied. It was too late for the people of Ghana to roll back the mess we have put ourselves into. Look at the scenario now. Similar scenario. Speak against free education. It is not possible. Leo Kran, the education minister, and the NDC says that if free SHS was possible, Nkrumah would have done it. The Soviet Union would have done it. It is not something that can be done. Mahama denigrates it, speaks against it, insults parents, insults teachers, insults students of free senior high school. They pass exams. He calls them thieves and all manner of things. Now we have 6 months to elections. They have realized that even to date, something. If you go to the streets and talk to the people of this country about one of the biggest policies they've experienced in the history of this country, they will mention free SHS. Now they realize that, but for free SHS, they would have had a headway. Now we need to find a way to align ourselves with the free SHS policy. So all of a sudden, they go and sit in a room, put on a sheet of paper, all the things they said against free SHS no longer matter.
So let's do
and then they say that, no, Outland, they say that we are now going to hold on to the free SHS that we said wasn't good and that it was destroying the quality of this country's education. The free SHS, we said that we should not be paying for everybody and that some people should be paying. All of a sudden, we'll keep it and we'll protect it. And then in order for you to even be more happier and vote for us, don't worry. When your children go through the free SHS that we don't believe in, we are going to pay for their fees. Now, the Ghanaian people ask them, but you said that the free SHS, not everybody should pay, and that there are some rich people who can pay. Why don't you do it at the university? Don't worry. The university there will pay for everybody. But the free senior high school level, we think that some people should pay. The level of dishonesty, the level of insincerity, the lack of credibility and integrity on the part of the leader is what is going to determine the success of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia or former President Mahama.
Now let's check you on a few things. You say that they have copied your manifesto, and in some points, it is lifting and simply pasting.
Some of them.
Right. Show us a couple of that.
Oh, for example, we mentioned from the get-go, we mentioned that we're going to ensure that every single person with disability in this country go to tertiary education for free. We mentioned, you remember we mentioned. We mentioned from the get-go, between former President Mahama and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the one that has consistently been speaking about consolidating the free senior high school and ensuring that it stays is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. All this while, what former President Mahama has been telling us that he will do is to segment the free senior high school policy. That is what he's been saying. What's changed all of a sudden? How is he all of a sudden saying exactly what Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is
Has he been talking about a revision or a segmentation?
But he said, at the moment, he's no longer even talking about the revision.
No, I'm asking, has he been talking about a review? Which word
He spoke about segmentation. There are two things. And that is one of the reasons why, even at some point, we were saying that whenever he mentions review, it means cancellation. Because he gave instances of what he's going to do before he brought in the word review. He said that he doesn't believe every Ghanaian should pay. That's the first thing he said. Secondly, he said that he doesn't even think that if he has 2 billion cedis, he should put all into free senior high school.
So you still do not believe that the NDC government started free SHS on a gradualist approach? You still don't believe that?
It's not like I don't believe. They didn't start free seniors. What is free? Some say, do you pay for something that is free? You are a lawyer. Do you pay for something that is free? Can you tell me any instance in this country until 2017 where any child went to secondary education without paying fees? One. How do you call something that I'm paying for free? So they never introduced anything free, and I'm not surprised you are stuck.
So we are checking.
Okay,
we are checking a few things.
Yeah, check for me.
You say they have copied your what? Your policy for persons with disabilities?
Yes.
What's the proof that it is a copy from you?
Until Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia spoke about persons with disability in this election.
When?
Oh, during our regional tour. I mean, I could check the date, but during our regional tour. So definitely after February 7th. Did you ever hear John Mahama speak about this within this election period?
So you're saying you spoke about it publicly
within
first.
This election period.
You spoke about it?
Within this election period.
You spoke about it first?
Yes, within this election period.
Okay.
Don't forget, already there is a pilot rollout of the free tertiary education for the persons with disability. Already. There is, and you can call the PWD associations. Already there's a partial rollout. I went to Kwapman School, so I know a lot when it comes to PWD.
Yeah, so when you are seeking the opportunity to come into government, there will be policies already.
Yes.
And what you do
is
to seek to improve those policies.
Absolutely.
So,
and the guys are preaching research.
No, wait. What is copy?
Copy is when you don't come up with anything creative until you realize that your opponent is speaking about it and you think it's going to be beneficial to you, then you pick it.
Do you have in your manifesto free education, tertiary education for persons with disability?
Yes, it's here. It's in our manifesto. Verbatim.
In your manifesto, how do you say you intend to implement it?
Every person with disability that qualifies to go to tertiary education will be paid for free to pursue their tertiary education in Ghana.
Right. To the extent that someone also has that, it means they copied from you.
But if I prepare this document, or if I stand somewhere and say something, and you say the next day, is it not that easy for me to settle on the fact that you copied?
They said they will scrap e-levy. You say you will scrap e-levy.
Yeah.
Did you copy from them?
Maybe. It is possible. Why not? It is possible. If you say it before me and I say it afterwards, it is possible.
So you are copying from them?
Yes, it is possible.
Fair enough.
The principle is the same.
What else can you point to?
For example, so upgrade the surface of our football pitches to meet the highest international standard. They pick it. Under sports and sports, they picked it. Directly from our manifesto. You know, there's a reason why the NDC waited 8 years without putting out a manifesto.
You said 8 years earlier. I thought that was a slip.
No, it's not.
What do you say 8 years?
But you have 8 years in opposition as an opposition leader. You are elected 1.5 years before your opponent, and you wait. Your opponent announces the date for his manifesto. Then the next day you announce yours. What are you intending to do?
So what do we make of what you said, that most of what
what they have
in the manifesto
is
exactly recycled
20 minutes like I did. Exactly 20 minutes.
No, he hasn't yet.
No, he started 10
Wait.
That thing too
Yeah.
much. You spoke all this while I didn't.
No.
Just pointing that out.
Let's not argue
like
about the
that.
time.
You like
I spoke about the time, but unfortunately,
Exactly the same.
you have done an equal time. It's fine.
No,
let's do it this way. Now, you guys, I lost my thought.
Because you won't lose
What
it.
was I going to? No,
You were asking
because of your
the list
intervention.
of copying. Is here? I'll show you plenty.
No, wait. Because if you actually had to play it that way, then it will mean that none of you will have an original manifesto if we go back to when you began manifestos.
You see, mindset and intentions.
Because you see the similarities in most of your manifestos. No, I was going to that question. Here's the question. You said most of what they have is recycled from 2012, 2016,
most
2020.
Yeah, easy. I have the list. I can.
Okay, so if most of what they have is recycled from their previous manifestos,
most.
Where
most. But I'll give you examples of the ones they copied.
Okay.
So it's here. I'll give you a tall list. There's plenty. It's here. I have it here. Plenty. I mean, when it comes to integrate scholarship data,
they said they would train 1 million youth in coding and programming. What does your manifesto say?
Train 1 million youth in digital.
What exactly is
coding? Is a subset of the digital systems. Coding is one.
So did you copy this from
them?
No,
they are not the same.
Okay.
They are not the same. They are doing just one small aspect of it. We are doing a broader aspect. They are not the same.
If you check the detail, it's not exactly
it's not
the
details.
Same.
It's not the same. It's not an issue of, there's a complete difference in digital
and
skills.
Programming.
Digital skills is broader than coding. Coding is just one aspect of digital skills.
All right. They spoke about a 10 billion investment in infrastructure, which is what they had promised earlier. So you are right to say they have gone back to their manifesto to pick things.
So there are three things happening in the NDC manifesto. There are things that they promised they would do in 2012, for which we made former President Mahama president, which he didn't do. And that's one of the points I keep making, that he has a responsibility, owes the people of this country, to come and tell us why we gave him an opportunity to be president to do specific things. He failed to do, and he's back to tell us the same things he told us. That's one. Number two, the second bit also is that there are things that he contradicted himself on. Things he doesn't believe in. Things that over the period, everybody in this country knows that he doesn't believe in. One of which is the free senior high school that he never believed in. That all of a sudden, he is bringing those things back to us.
So when you speak about the NHIS, no, it's okay. When you mention the NHIS, that you introduced it, and they came and did, Kufuor introduced it, you recall that the facts remain that Kufuor had a mutual scheme for districts. It was not national. It was actually President Mills who made it a national, policy.
So that's false. That's false. Kufuor actually made national health insurance before he left office in 2008. You could use your national health insurance card, which you got from Tamale, to access health in the Kapim North. And I have a copy of the card here. What actually Atamils did, Professor Atamils did, was to enact the legislation which President Kufuor started in 2008 to back that national system that he introduced. But after the time President Kufuor left office, I have a copy of the national health insurance card here, which was a national health insurance card and not a mutual health insurance. So that's false.
So why did you discount what President Mills had to do and to say the NDC had no role to play?
Why did I say the NDC had no? Did you ever hear me say? I said
no. The role you spoke about the NDC was just opposition.
Something. I am very careful when I choose my words.
I remember exactly what you said, and I actually wrote some of them down.
Read it.
Okay.
Read it.
So you said they opposed it.
Yes.
And they boycotted Parliament.
Absolutely.
And then came later to promise one-time premium and reneged.
Yes.
That's the contribution NDC has made on NHIS.
No,
as far as what you said was
why are you picking words? What I said was that, and it's a fact, the NDC fought against the national insurance scheme. Is that not a fact? They don't boycott Parliament. Is that not a fact? Hold on. Is that not a fact?
What was the basis for the boycott?
Hold on.
Was the basis against the scheme or against the structure in terms of limiting it to, as it were, I remember the argument because I was here. I remember the argument. It was not a boycott on the basis that the scheme was wrong.
It was what?
It was the rollout in terms of using the workers' support for it.
You are here, and we are always discussing Ghana independence now, or independence what? What's the other one? In
shortest possible
time. And we have people. And I'm sure you share the view. I know your views. You probably share the views that Nkrumah is the one who gave us independence because he used a certain approach than the other approach. That's the only difference.
You don't know my view.
No, I know. But
you don't know my view. You don't know.
Okay.
Are you a diviner?
I think I know. So here you are telling me that there is a government that is coming to pass national health insurance scheme for the people. Another party opposes it. And you are telling me that, oh, they oppose the passage of the law and the introduction of the policy on a certain principle, so it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that the law that enacted National Health Insurance Scheme was opposed by the NDC. They spoke against it, they fought against National Health Insurance Scheme, they stood against it, only for them to come back later and promise us a one-time premium.
You spoke about energy.
What I put out is
you spoke about energy.
Yes.
You spoke about energy and how they plunged us into doomsday and so on. And they solved that problem before they got out of office.
Which problem did they solve? Again, it is another falsehood that we allowed to fester for a very long time.
Tell us what the MPP has done to the energy situation since you came into office.
We found money in the economy to buy fuel. That's the only thing. That is all.
So you have not added 1 megawatt to
we
the
have
grid.
added more than 1 megawatt. But that is not even the case. Because you see, the energy crisis, ever since we were in position, we've always insisted, and you are aware, our position on the energy crisis was that it was a money problem. Never did the MPP ever stand anywhere to say that our energy crisis was capacity. Because indeed, at some point, we even had excess capacity.
But you cannot argue that they didn't solve it.
No, but they didn't.
They did.
How? If you buy a car,
they did, and you came and said, we even have excess.
No. Samson, listen. You borrow and take plants on credit, which is the easiest thing anybody can do.
All right.
And then, no, let me answer. Don't say all right. Then
I need to go to Theo Champong. I'll come to you. Wait.
Then you come and put the plants down.
No, I'll come to you. He hasn't
I can give you 1 hour. It doesn't matter. Then you come and put the plants down. Then your economy is broke. You cannot pay public sector workers. You cannot pay allowances of the
last bit you were talking about was...
Hold on. And so you are unable to find money to power the plants that you didn't spend any money on, you took on credit.
The bit about your emphasis on credibility, as in Mahama against Dr. Bawumia.
Yeah.
You think through it.
Oh, yes.
What are Ghanaians telling you now?
Oh, it's here. The evidence is here.
Ghanaians are telling you that it was $1 to 4 cedis. Today, it is 16 cedis or more to $1. And Bawumia took the high,
absolutely
stand and spoke about how the NDC was incompetent in managing the economy.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to credibility, they will tell you that they have better credibility.
No.
As we speak, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah says you have fulfilled 70% of your manifesto.
Even 80.
Dr. Bawumia says 80% of your manifesto. We don't know which one to take.
It is 80.
We don't even know how to prove that.
But they'll do it yourself. But that should be your job. Something, that should be your job. Why should that be my job? I have done it. I've shown it to you. Why should I be the one proving anything to you? Take it. The manifesto is there. It's public document, line by line, like I've done it for the NDC here. You can see I've done it for the NDC. So it's easy for me to run the NDC's percentage. I didn't wait for the NDC to do it for me. Okay. So do it yourself. But let me respond to your query about the economy and the dollar. Samson, that is basically why Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is speaking of an upgrade. Never in the lives of any country have we had everything all rosy. And that is why today the Ghanaian people are looking at the former President Mahama, the Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and saying, what are the things that we believe are right in our economy today? For which reason we need to protect? And what are the things that are left? And that is why I don't want us to hide this conversation under sentiment, but deal with the fact.
Okay.
What are the challenges? What are the difficulties? We have major challenges with the macroeconomic indicators. Inflation went all the way to 54%. Dollar is still, having an issue with our CD and all of that. So what is the proposition of the manifestos of the two leaders in dealing with these specific issues? And Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's solution is simple. We need to begin to do two critical things. Let's continue to boost our industrial base, which they eroded, sold 300 of our factories, and make sure that we are producing a lot more within this country. Let's boost these industries by ensuring that we move the country away from cash and carry to a credit system where we can increase demand, for which reason these industries will have a reason to produce more, and as they produce, they employ. Right. But most importantly, shall we harness on our natural minerals resources, the gold, to back our currency to strengthen it going into the future?
Thank you.
So nobody is saying that we have not encountered challenges.
Thank you. Hold on for
What we are saying is that these are the solutions that the two leaders are proposing. All right. Which one makes sense?
Thank you very much. Sam, wait. Dr. Theo Champong, you have to hold on for me. I'll come to you. I will need to take a break. But before I do that, Sammy, I'm back to you.
All right. Just to put
here,
the record
wait,
that
wait,
he's had
wait,
10
wait.
more minutes than what you get.
You people count time.
I don't count time. Don't mention me. I don't care about the time. You can do 1 hour. I don't care. You can do 1 hour.
Do 11. I did 10 minutes. That's
The power of
and
your
I know
argument is not in the time you
but the
have.
time is
I don't,
important.
Now,
don't care about time.
wait.
Give it to him, Samson. Don't do it.
It's all right.
Samson,
It's all right.
let me start.
It's all right. Wait.
Okay.
And I need to state this again. Kofor had a national insurance card after a mutual scheme, which was limited to the districts, your locality, which was not actually expansive. And it is in Mills's regime, as I said, we had what we had. He admits it is only in the law. The NDC promised a progressively free senior high school. And as we understand, commenced, call it a pilot. It cannot be said, because it's factual, that they never, and I cannot be progressing without making that a clear point. On energy matters, the Doomsor crisis was solved and officially announced as solved. If it's a financial matter, I think he's fair about that point, but it was resolved. Now, you guys have gone copying manifestos. Just a brief response, then we'll call.
Let's just give me equal time. You see, number one, this is the stock in trade of the NPP. Lies upon lies upon lies.
Can you make your point without saying lies upon lies?
Yeah, no, it's important.
No,
it's important.
no,
it's important.
It's not
to
right.
describe what they have done.
It's not right.
Falsehood, deliberate falsehood. You see, Samson, let me start from where he started from. He said that no one, because you made a point that people have commended our manifesto. And he replied by saying that aside NDC people, he has not heard anybody commend the NDC manifesto as laudable, as responsive to the plight of Ghanaians. Is Franklin Kujo an NDC member? Samson, help me. That's your friend. The executive director of Imani. Is he an NDC member?
I've heard what TUC has said about the 24-hour economy.
Manifesto.
So you don't need to.
Hold on. Oh, Samson, allow me. NDC manifesto had clear, relatable, humane, and universal ideas. Franklin Kujo. He's not NDC. Then Professor Jampu, not NDC. NDC manifesto contains simple and sensible interventions. So when you have Bawumia's communications director come to sit here and say that aside NDC, no other person has lauded the NDC manifesto, he's peddling falsehood. Number two, he says we have stolen their manifesto promises. And exact words, yes, he said we, in some cases, we lifted promises from their manifesto. And you challenge him to give you just one example.
PWDs.
Look,
Free
I am
tertiary
demonstrating to you that he is a liar. Look, the promise to make tertiary education free for all persons with disability was contained in the 2020 manifesto of the NDC. He doesn't know, I'll prove to him. Anybody watching me, Google NDC 2020 People's Manifesto. Check page 74, item T. So the paragraph is 7.26, tertiary education. And it says the next NDC government will, you come to T, provide free tertiary education for persons with disability. So why will you come and sit here and lie that we've stolen your promise or your policy when it was contained in our 2020 manifesto at a time Bawumia was not even contesting for president? Look, if they are so lazy that they can't read our manifesto before they come and lie, at least what about checking on the internet? This is a story by starfm.com. And my Joe Online did the same story. NDC promises free tertiary education for people living with disability. September 7th, 2020. You come and sit here. This is your stock in trade. Moving from radio station to radio station, telling lies.
Speak to the fact and leave it.
What's the meaning of this?
Speak to the fact and
then
leave it.
Then he says that 1 million coders program, NDC 2020 manifesto. Check page 84. It is there. And it is never true, like you pointed out to him. You say they lie with arrogance, obscene, nauseating arrogance. And when you are correcting them, they will not be humble to even accept. Page 84, Samson. What is there is not just about coding. Listen to the whole gamut of things we said we're going to train 1 million young people in. page 84, 2020 manifesto. The next NDC government will implement the following policies. Okay, 1 million coders program. And he said this initiative will be implemented through a public-private partnership to provide free training to 1 million youths with knowledge and skills for A, coding and programming, B, web developing, apps development, etc. C, expand opportunities in the knowledge and ICT-based economy. So they stole this policy, but Womia's first announcement was 1 million coders.
Now you are saying they stole.
Yes, because we promised this in 2020, but Womia was not a candidate. Akufo-Addo never promised this. So in 2024, Bawumia goes to UPSC in that infamous lecture and then lies that when he steals this policy and says when they come, they will roll out 1 million coders program. So we expose them. After we expose them, they have now changed the language to we will train 1 million people in digital skills. What is the difference between training digital skills and the things I've listed for you here? So they are the ones in the business of stealing manifesto promises. You keep on asking him, show us promises that the NDC lifted from your manifesto. And he says, I have it here, I have it here. You have it here. Is that how we argue on Newsfile? Show us the promise we lifted. Not even one.
Not
and I've demonstrated to you.
He has, except that you have counted it.
No, he lied. Because the promise to make tertiary education free for PWDs was a 2020 manifesto promise of the NDC. And this, I heard him mention scholarship. Don't even go there. You are promising to streamline scholarships. We are promising to introduce legislation to coordinate and streamline scholarships and ban political appointees from benefiting from scholarships. Totally different from what
when we get to Bawumia's press engagement,
we will get there.
That issue will come up about the scholarships.
Yes,
because when I mentioned the problems that are being faced by students abroad on the scholarships, my focus was also whether he would prohibit politically exposed persons
we will do it. That will get there.
Something.
At least let it be on record. Your production crew can check it. Which political party first promised free tertiary education for PW? I'm giving you the page number in our 2020 manifesto. Let me go to health insurance.
Okay, that's where you end it. That's where you end it. That's where you end it.
You see,
I'm telling you, that's where you
people
end
are watching.
That's where you end
these things.
The fairness is not in the time allocation. Go ahead.
Look, I'm even going to the foundation. Who told him that it was Kufuor who introduced health insurance? Who told him that? National health insurance. Samson, me, when I talk about something, I don't say it's on my laptop. I read it to you and I give you sources. So Google the story. Government must accept useful minority suggestions. Dated 26th April 2000. Who was the president? Jerry John Rawlings and the NDC. Ghana web story. Read. This is Adokofor, spokesperson on health for the MPP at the time. He says, Dr. Adokofor, MP for Menchia on Tuesday, called on the government to accept useful suggestions from the opposition. He noted that the billions of cedis and energy wasted on the single national health insurance scheme could have been saved if the government had not brushed aside the minority suggestion in 1997 that such a scheme was not viable. It was the MPP in 97, 98, 99 who said that it is not possible for Ghana to have a single national health insurance scheme.
He quoted Leocran. That is also fact.
No, we are talking about free SHS. Don't miss. Let's expose them. This is health insurance, and we are educating your audience. So this was their position, because Rawlings had started the piloting. The Kali Check was doing it, and we had started the piloting of national health insurance, and they said it was not possible. And they advocated for a mutual district health insurance scheme. In 2003, they passed Access 50. If he doesn't know, you should go and read. And Section 2 of Access 50, the law of war passed, on the functions of that scheme. In fact, they call it Health Insurance Council. Let me read Section 2 to you. Section 2 of the, I will make reference to it, but anybody watching me, Google Act 650. That is the first Health Insurance Act Kufuor passed in the year 2003. And what it provided for was for the establishment of health insurance schemes. And in fact, let me just Google it quickly and read that to you, Act 650.
I'm sure I made that point.
Yeah, it's important that we educate people.
Okay, so...
It's here. I just got it. For the purpose of achieving this object, the council has the following responsibility: register, license, and regulate health insurance schemes. So organizations could have their own health insurance schemes, districts could have their own mutual schemes, and this council COFOR established through the passage of Act 650 was to license and regulate them. B says supervise the operations of health insurance schemes. This is the law. It was the NDC that came into office, and in 2012, at the time, Professor Mills had even died. President Mahama was acting as president, and we passed Act 852. Let me read Act 852 to you. Act 852 was what established what we have today, the National Health Insurance Authority. And Section 3 of Act 852 says this. Section 2, the object of the authority is to attain universal health coverage. In fact, Section 3, functions of the authority. To achieve the object of the authority shall implement, now not regulate or license or supervise, implement, operate, and manage the National Health Insurance Scheme. This was when National Health Insurance Scheme was.
Right.
So you are exposing and advertising your ignorance.
The highlights to
you don't know what you're talking about.
Premium is what became the highlights.
Exposed. The NDC never.
Thank you.
They rather objected.
That's where you ended. That's where you ended.
Samson, I beg you. Let me land well. You gave him ample time. This is
but you will never land.
And it's he says the energy sector is thriving, and you were smiling. The energy sector choked with debts. IPPs threatening us day in, day out that they are going to shut down their plants. The energy sector today, look at upstream sector. We've had a 32% decline in oil production.
Thank you.
Tor is on his knees.
Right.
You are talking about allowances that today their children.
Let me do this. Dr. Thierry Champong.
Abruptly like that.
Dr. Thierry Champong.
Don't do that to me.
No, stop. It's enough.
At least let me land on this point.
You will not land. That's what I'm seeing.
The exposure is enough.
You will not land.
He told
Dr. Thierry Champong. Dr. Thierry Champong.
Samson, let me land in 1 minute. In fairness, the way you allowed him to land, let me land.
Even 1 hour.
We know the lies about allowances they are not paying. But this is what I will say in conclusion. He and his likes in the MPP should be the last people to talk about credibility. You have a man who is famed for being a liar. A man who promised...
that you have framed for being a liar. Don't say who is framed.
This is the man who sat... So let me tell you what that man does. He stood in Cape Coast and said, good people of Cape Coast, I have good news for you. We are building a new harbor and a new airport for you. It was a lie.
It's repeated.
This is the man.
It is repeated.
After 4 years, he didn't do anything. Done.
So,
but something, what are you talking about? The man said 4 years ago that they were building a harbor and an airport. That's what you meant by... The man said that in 18 months of an NPP government, no community will have a water or toilet problem.
Dr. Thierry Champong. This is the man who said
we don't have to borrow for roads.
Sammy.
This is the man who said you give us concrete roads.
Sammy.
And you come and say John Mahama doesn't have credibility. The Mahama who gave us the best airport in the whole of West Africa. The Mahama who gave Ghana the biggest airport
listen to me. Can you listen to me? Can I moderate the show?
Because you are not giving me the same time, and you did that the last time. You gave him 10 more minutes than me.
And you have done more minutes than 10 more minutes. You have done 11 minutes plus.
No, Samson. I think you should be fair.
You have done 11 minutes plus.
You should be fair and allow me to land.
You've done 11 extra minutes plus.
It's important.
It's enough.
That we set the record.
Sammy, it's enough. Dr. Thierry Champong, come in. Dr. Thierry Champong, come in. Dr. Thierry Champong, come in. Sammy, and we need to have a decent show. And once again, let me say this. There was actually this young man from Wale Wale, a radio station there, who asked Dr. Bawumia a question that last week on my show, there was an independent presidential candidate who was saying unprintable things about Dr. Bawumia, and I sat here and watched because I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I was hoping you mentioned one thing that was said that I didn't say anything about, but he didn't. And I don't want you to take us there again. We can be decorous about it. You don't need to call people liars. You don't need to call people all of those names. The name calling is enough. Sorry, don't come in. I didn't invite you. I didn't invite you. I didn't invite you. Dr. Thierry Champong, the focus for this segment, for which the time is run out already, but you will have your turn in sufficient time, is the NDC's manifesto. The last time we discussed the NPP's manifesto. What are the things that stick out for you in that manifesto?
No, I think there's some good things, right, in both manifestos, particularly the NDC manifesto. That's the one that we are discussing at the moment. But let me just go back one bit. I know my good friends, Dennis and Sami, if you give them 24 hours, they will do the back and forth, and, you know, that's their job, right? But the point is that both of the parties, when you actually look at the manifestos, and you can go all the way back to 2000, 2004, 2008, 12, you will see similar elements of the proposals, right, that cuts across board.
And there's nothing wrong with that, right?
No, there's nothing wrong with that. It also speaks to the fact that we have systemic issues that need to be addressed. And the approach could be different, of course, but the fact that you actually have recognized them in both manifestos, I think it's a good thing. Of course, they would want to make the political capital out of it. Who came out with the proposal first? And for me, and where I sit, it's relatively immaterial in the grand scheme, you know, of things. The arguments, you know, can continue. But the important thing for me is whether you take NDC manifesto, you take MPP manifesto, how do these things really speak to addressing the two biggest issues that we face today, the economy and the issue of jobs? And the fact that in manifestos that we've had in the past, you have pockets of interventions, things that come in, but they are not connected to each other. These interventions are even not sequenced. So how do you even prioritize one over the other? Because the results that we've got at the end of the day today is that more Ghanaians, like I said, are poorer today than they were, right, 10 years ago. You can look at the poverty statistics. You can look at the inequality statistics. We, myself, even, and others, keep trumpeting this economic growth, inflation, and other, you know, macroeconomic numbers. They are good, but they are not the end of itself. It's got to be connected to the issues of creating good, distant, sustainable jobs. And to the extent then that either of the manifestos now speak about the structural issues that this economy faces, that is what really, you know, for me matters at the end of the day. So both talk about the macro issues. The NDC, you asked me about high-level things. They talk about the 24-hour economy proposal, and I have said earlier on other platforms that I think it's a credible proposal. There are things that need to be done to make it work in terms of the incentives that you give, how you then, you know, boost productivity within the agri, within manufacturing, and get the idle factories going, and all of those things that really need to make this happen. So it's not for me the slogan, it's actually more the substance, the how of that which would be delivered. And the important thing, having a mechanism to actually track the progress on that with how that leads into creating, you know, the jobs. Because my worry in all of this, and you see similar things in the NPP manifesto as well, they talk about industrialization and things around that and getting the economy to work, you know, consistently. The thing is that we have had different and bits of these interventions all over the place. But I like to borrow what one of my colleagues, Professor Ken Opalu, he's a Kenyan political economist. He put out a piece earlier this week on Nigeria, and he actually had an interesting quote there, which I want to borrow to make a point, right? That you often can have, quote, these bold but rudderless attempts at structural transformation. So what do I mean by that? Yes, so you have bold but rudderless attempt. It is not going anywhere. There's no sense of direction. There's no sense of connecting the dots together. There's no underlying theory of change. The economic agenda is not coherent. So in one sense, you are punishing, for example, the private sector, but at the same time, you say you want to create good, right? And so it's very important for me, from where I sit, really, that regardless of the manifesto you take, MPP, NDC, CPP, all of those things, fundamentally, how would this impact the ordinary lives of Ghanaians?
That's where I ask you this question,
Dr. Overall economic growth and job creation. And when I look at the proposals that have come from both parties, I don't think that it does enough to really push us in the direction of the structural transformation, right, that we are looking for. Because I don't get the sense, yes, some proposals are bold, but it is not morphed into a coherent structural transformational agenda that would help us to create jobs and reduce the poverty and inequality. After all, if that were the case, then what should have happened over the last 10 years is that inequality should have been going down, but rather it's going up. You have 3 in 10 of your population now that are much poorer now than they were 10 years ago when there was 1, right?
Right, Doc. So the question I was asking.
And then the other thing, quick one, just a quick one. The other thing is, and you asked both of them, right? Where are you going to get the money to fund all of this?
Exactly.
Right? Especially in the context of the IMF program and the limited fiscal space that we've been talking about. And both parties dance around this specific thing. Oh, we can, if we stop corruption, you can create some space and all of that. But we need specific, right, costed proposals on the, then rally up to see the overall fiscal impact. Let me just give a quick example of that. Take the free primary healthcare proposal that the NDC is coming up with, right? I think the World Health Organization has got a document that talks about lower middle income countries. Now, on average, you need about, what, $40, $60. So let's round it up, $50 per person per year in a lower middle income country to meet your free, right, primary healthcare needs. Now, if you use Ghana's population now, 34 million, and you work those numbers conservatively, you're talking about $1.7 billion a year, or around $7 billion over 4 years. Now, let's assume that even half of Ghanaians, right, will be able to access that. You're talking in total around $3 billion, right, over the 4 years, or a little around, let's say, $800 million, right, per year. Now, that is as much as the money you're getting from oil proceeds, right, currently, or other, investments that are coming into the economy. So clearly, you see that these manifestos would have big impact, right, on the fiscal space, and there's actually not much money lying around to do some of these things without having to actually go to the international capital markets to borrow, and we've been shut out from that market until 2027, 28. Maybe, thereabouts. So those are the big things. I don't see, like I said very earlier, a coherent economic transformational agenda with clear benchmarks that are linked to specific sectoral outcomes that we can measure, that then allows us to actually say at the end of the day, that this is where we were, and this is kind of where we have, gotten to. And that is why I think that, yes, you can have both, but if you don't have that coherence, that sense of direction, then to borrow my friend's words again, it will become a rudderless attempt at structural transformation.
The issue about, this one affects the two. E-levy alone, over 3 years, from 2025 to 2027, if you scrap it, we are talking about losing in excess of 13 billion. How is it possible for the NDC to scrap it? Or we're talking about NDC's manifesto. So, yeah. Where are they going to get the money from?
Yeah.
That revenue loss, how would they make up for it?
Yeah, so you have to then also look at what is the cost of the transaction to the average sort of Ghanaian. I remember very well, was it 2 years or 3 years ago when the e-levy was being proposed, and I was here on this platform, and some of us from the get-go said it was a non-starter, right? Same thing with the COVID levy, which now I think should be scrapped. So those little tax proposals, and you see it on both parties. The scrapping of them for me would provide a little bit more cushion and convenience to Ghanaians, especially even those that are in the lower tier of our society, right? That you look at the studies and the tax burden on those within like the lower 25%, quintile of the population, when they make these transfers, they feel the effect more than, for example, myself, who you may call middle class or upper middle class, for that matter, right? You want to get more into people's pockets to spend. And I think that the idea that the state is some sort of tanker, right, that is there to give freebies, we have to test that a little bit, because ultimately what will happen is with all the freebies that are being proposed, you ultimately have to either increase more taxes or go and borrow. And we don't have the option to borrow, because you look at the proposals, right? The NDC is promising 680 things at your last count. In 2020, it was 617. So that's an increment of roughly about 60, right? The NPP this time around is promising 380 things. In 2020, it was 223. That's roughly an increment of probably a little over 100, right, as well. So both of them have actually increased the size or the quantum of the promises that they are making. Although when you count, you will say the NDC is more than the NPP. But the point really is that if you are to implement all these things, there is no money to do it. So something has to give.
All right.
You have to cut back on some of them and prioritize and sequence them.
Right. Okay, so the whip is on me to cut this now, because we have done just more than the time can allow us. Dr. Thierry Champon, stay on there. We'll take a break and return. We have some adverts that we'll have to play back to back because they pay for the show. But I will take the break on this note. And 2009 budget statement. At the budget statement, it was investing in a better Ghana at paragraphs 731 and maybe 732. I find this there, which is at page 167, since we are fact-checking. Now, it says National Health Insurance Scheme. Madam Speaker, the National Health Insurance Authority introduced a new diagnostic-related groupings, DRGS, and tariffs in April 2008 throughout the country. Please mark that. And tariffs in April 2008 throughout the country. The new universal ID cards, which was to replace the expiring scheme-specific DMHIS, that's District Mutual Health Insurance Scheme cards, began in September 2008. The last paragraph says, Madam Speaker, in 2008, the National Health Insurance Scheme expanded coverage with almost 12,000 registered members by the end of the year, representing 54% of the population. Regional monitoring and evaluation officers have been appointed and systems continue to be strengthened. We'll be right back.